The story begins with our beloved protagonist named Furuya Chihiro. He is a first-year high school student who has an obsession with zombies, to the point that he only wants to be kissed by a zombie girl. That aside, one day, an unexpected event occurs. He loses an important member of his family named Babu, a cat that is apparently run over by a neighbor. But Chihiro doesn't want to accept that it is the end of his beloved pet, and in the process of his loss, he comes up with an idea. He remembers that on a little trip with his family, he found a manuscript which describes the art of resurrection magic. Finding himself desperate and depressed, he thinks it's worth trying to create some kind of potion to bring his cat back to life. After all, if he loves zombies, why wouldn't he accept a zombie cat? As the days go by and there is no progress in his attempts, he decides to continue his daily life by attending Shio High School, a school for men. Across the river, it's Sanka School, which was for women only. His friend mentions to him that the principal's daughter, called Sankarea, has just entered there, and apparently she visits the same place where Chihiro made his attempts to revive Babu. Except that she goes there to vent her feelings, such as the hate she feels for being part of the Sanka family. One night, she decides to scream at the top of her lungs about the terrifying action of her father, who usually takes photos of her in underwear when her birthday is approaching in order to, in quotes, see how she's growing up. But she isn't aware that Chihiro is watching her at that moment, and when he hears about the situation, the foolish man drops a drink. And Rhea, feeling very embarrassed, begs him and insists on doing whatever she could to make him forget what he has heard. And this is how he decides to accept not telling anyone, since sometimes one needs to vent. And then she mentions to him that she wishes not to live and to be reborn as someone else, since she is not allowed to do things like go out with her friends and enjoy her life. She believes that he is doing the same thing in there, and however, he eventually mentions to her that he just wants to revive his pet, and of course, Rhea wants to help him, as she has never had a pet. Let's go back to the situation in which Rhea is. The love that her father feels for her goes beyond the acceptable levels. She is always accompanied by the staff, including her cold mother, who ignores all those abnormal actions and forbids her to have any friends except for Nakadai, who was the first person she told about what her father was doing to her. Her friend advises her to confront him so he won't take those photos anymore, but of course he doesn't listen to her. And in the blink of an eye, he also takes her only friend away, and once again she finds herself alone, wanting to, disappear with the life she has. The next day, the two of them continue to work on their potion, although there is a part of the manuscript that is not clearly visible. Later, Rhea brings a hydrangea from a hill that has certain poison in it. That's how they end up giving the potion to Babu, but they notice that it hasn't worked. And well, Chihiro decides to stop being selfish and prefers to give his cat a dignified burial and invites Rhea to the funeral. This is difficult for her, since she will never see him again, nor will she be able to distract herself from her problems. In the end, they both go home. Unexpectedly, Rhea's father observes that she returns with Chihiro, and he discovers about her escapades. Then, Chihiro arrives home and finds his cousin Ranko, who sets a trap to question him about his night outings. He tries to prevent her from discovering Babu in his backpack, but just as she opens his backpack, he realizes that the medicine has worked as the cat flies out. After that, we see Rhea taking the medicine, hoping not to wake up again. But unfortunately, she does wake up again to face her reality next day. A moment later, she hears her father saying that he will hurt Chihiro. Coming back to the fact that Babu flew away, Ranko and Chihiro go out to look for him, while Rhea escapes to look for Chihiro and warn him that he is in danger. One of her father's subordinates begins to follow her up the hill where she found the hydrangea before. By chance, Chihiro is there with Babu, since the cat went out to eat the leaves of that poisonous hydrangea. And before she can see him, her father takes her home, and that's when Babu goes straight to her and she notices that the cat has revived. And now we see how Rhea confronts her father again, but in this struggle, he throws her over the cliff, leaving her lifeless. But after a few seconds, she wakes up due to the potion she took, thus turning her into a zombie. After that, there is a connection as she can feel in a certain way what Babu is thinking. Seeing that her skin is pale and cold for not having a pulse, including dilated pupils, Chihiro's fantasy begins to be stronger, and in a tense moment she tries to approach him to kiss him. But at that very moment, the silly Ranko arrives to yell at him because she got stuck because of her big breasts. So he ended up leaving her there alone. So Rhea decides to take a shower, thinking that there is no one at home, but to her misfortune, she has a very awkward moment with her grandfather, who confuses her with someone else. After a while, Chihiro returns to his room, but notices that Rhea has rigor mortis, which basically means that her body is all stiff and she can't move. As a result, he accepts the responsibility of protecting her from everything. And the next day, after cleaning the temple, his father tells him that he cannot take care of another cat, and before continuing to scold him, Chihiro tells him that it is actually Babu, since he revived it. Obviously, Bob, his sister, and his father do not believe him, but his grandfather does, because he also supposedly revived a girl named Sada with his resurrection pill. This confuses Chihiro and makes him think because maybe his grandfather might know something to help him with Rhea. But then Ranko arrives to borrow a zombie movie from Chihiro before leaving. So she goes straight to his room and finds Rhea, who jumps on her trying to lick her. So, he tries to get her off of him, but when she sees him, she jumps right in for a kiss, thus fulfilling his greatest wish. After that, Rhea goes out with Babu to the backyard to eat the hydrangeas, and he notices how her pupils become different, and she becomes conscious again, and as we already know, the hydrangea toxin is the key ingredient for resurrection, and it is evident that eating it will increase its effects. So the grandfather advised him to continue delaying in the progress of the composition with due care, since that will not be enough. And before the grandfather revealed to him what he did in such cases, again the foolish Ranko throws a blow to the grandfather, leaving him stupid. As night falls, they decide to go for a walk. However, they don't expect that one of the subordinates will try to run over Chihiro because of Rhea's father's orders. Although in a way that ends up being good, because due to that, he got a small wound on his arm and she ended up licking his wound. And then we see Mero-chan, Chihiro's sister. Because of the responsibility with Rhea, he can no longer spend much time with her. But still, she decides to go to the cemetery to leave an offering to her mother. Remember the little things about her, such as her voice and her way of taking care of her. At that time, Rhea arrives, and in a way, Mero-chan finds similarity with her mother to the point of calling her mother by accident, since she reminds her so much of her. The next day, our lovers decide to have a day at the mall to buy clothes for Rhea, but they didn't count on the fact that they were once again being followed by the subordinates to carry out their father's plans. But before cutting her, Chihiro's annoying friend arrives and takes her outside. It is where they take the opportunity to kidnap her, but she exploits her incredible strength to avoid it. After that, they prefer to implement Plan B, taking Chihiro with them. Once he's tied up, Arya, Rhea's mother, arrives and starts hitting on him, although he doesn't let her charms win him over. But she still ends up confessing to him that she is not Rhea's mother and tells him that when Daddy Shiro, who is Rhea's father, was young, his family held a benefit event inviting people with disabilities and agents from all over the neighborhood to a fencing tournament, which apparently was arranged so that it would not interfere with his reputation. But then, a girl of only 15 came to teach him a lesson, and in the blink of an eye, he asked her to marry him, made her pregnant, and she died giving birth. This is how, over the time, she managed to marry Daddy Chiro, thinking that Rea needs to grow up with a mother, although in fact he only wanted to pretend to have a happy family. After failing to get close to Arya, the subordinate who was always aware of the atrocity that her father was doing to the little girl, made her find out so that she would give up and understand the abnormal love he had for his daughter. So she starts to become cold, to drink alcohol every day, and accepts to stay only for the wealth and luxuries she has. On the other hand, Darichiro, willing not to make the same mistake, again to protect her, confronts Chihiro in a fencing duel trying to hurt him, but the protagonist does not let himself be intimidated, saying everything that Arya told him to avoid fighting him. But just at that moment, Rhea arrives to try to stop him, but it is too late, because the father managed to pierce Chihiro with his sword. Despite this, he hits him back, and because Rhea licked his wound, he is able to infect him with the poison, which being a very light dose was not so lethal, causing him to end up being half zombie. Later on, Rhea managed to stop her father, and with Chihiro, they make him understand that they only want to be together and that she wants to be a normal girl. It is there when Daddy Chiro decides to leave her in his care, although it will not always be like that because he will be looking for a cure for his daughter. Days later, Chihiro wants her to know more places, but it is a little difficult for her due to her decomposition, so he has an idea of setting off a fireworks demonstration at the temple. With Ranga's help, Rhea managed to put on a stunning outfit, and she declares that she will do anything not to lose Chihiro, so they will continue to compete for his love. The next day, Rhea is ready to go back to school, so she goes to her house to pick up things and to spend a nice time with our protagonist in the place where they saw each other for the first time. At that moment, Chihiro wants to express his feeling, but unexpectedly she loses consciousness and bites him because the more time passes, she tends to have more symptoms of a zombie, losing her personality and memories to the point of not knowing who her family is.